politicians getting caught grabbing ass, says she's driving it home with Patti Vasquez.
Can you say market manipulation? I'm sorry, was that too loud? I didn't mean it. I hope that you were not driving someplace where you might have rear-ended somebody. Yeah, I don't know how else to put this, but market manipulation, folks. There was an article that came out about how many of these like short-selling hedge fund investors or whatever they are, last week alone made $159 billion off of the erratic nature of the situation going on with the stock market. And the thing is, I feel like if most people know by now that after imposing tariffs on about, 170 countries, with this whole idea of like, well, there's a trade deficit, they're not buying enough cars, like the Japanese aren't buying enough cars from the United States, even though we don't make cars that they want in Japan or can use in Japan or most parts of Europe, as a matter of fact. I mean, I don't know if you've been to some of these places. They're not as spread out as we are. They don't have the same sort of infrastructure that had to be kind of put together. Our highways. Look, Irving Park Road is 4 lanes in either direction, almost. And then when you get closer to the lake, it's only 1 lane in each direction. But that's neither here nor there. They have like friggin' cobblestone roads with tight turns. They need smaller cars that are nimble, and so there's a reason. There's a lot of explanations as to why the rest of the world doesn't buy as many American cars, and we have to buy theirs because they make really good ones, and we make good ones too. But no, okay. At any rate, so 170 countries that Trump last week imposed tariffs on, and was it last week or was it just this week? I don't know what day we're on. What day was that thing with the tablet and the? It's too much, Lady B. I can't keep track. At any rate, like the island with the penguins and Australia, who we don't even have a trade deficit with. And at any rate, like this nonsensical idea that Donald Trump got from Peter Navarro, who friggin' like made crap up, even like a fictional authority or expert on tariffs and the economy, because Jared Kushner went on Amazon and was like, I need to find an economist. This looks good. Let's just destroy the global economy with this. And if you don't think that today's nonsense isn't a continuation of just monumental stupidity, I'm sorry, because it's not just that Trump is stupid. It is that the people who are all in on this, like, I know I shouldn't call people names, but the things that I'm seeing online, right? And like responses to things that we even post online, right? Because we put up a post about how the tariffs imposed in 1930 helped dig us deeper into a depression. And the comment I got right after that today, somebody posted, the tariffs didn't lead to the Great Depression. Okay, reading is fundamental. Dug us deeper. We know. Oh my God. At any rate, okay, what was I saying? Oh, market manipulation. Okay, so I don't know if it's because Musk was out there yesterday calling Peter Navarro names. And by the way, now, like, just tossing out the R word about people, which I think he's doing that now because so many maggots throw out, like, say, libtards. I mean, the rate at which I'm seeing that is, and by the way, Lady B, now using images. Before it was, no, because that means a delay. It's a word that you use. But then using images of people who either are disabled or pretending to be disabled, right? Don't lie to me. Don't pee on me and tell me it's raining, I guess is what. Although that's something that apparently we should still wait for those tapes from Russia. I really am still waiting for those pee tapes. I'm just saying. At any rate, can you tell this is too much? It's so much. It's ridiculous. It's absurd. This man has absolutely no idea what he's doing. And I guess there were several Republicans who were like, hey, you know, my 401k or whatever it is, their investments. I guess Joe Rogan and some crypto guy were angry because millions of dollars that they had in different funds were erased. And here's the thing. It might not even be that pressure. It could also just be that they are situated in order to, like, make as much money as possible. The erratic nature of the market fills the pot. He even said today's a good day to buy. Like, a president shouldn't be telling you go ahead and make money to the country when most of us can't get in the market and trade like that. Oh my God. I don't know. Coddling these people got us here. Right. But I remember hearing a few weeks ago on Richard Chu's show, and I think that Joan has had a few guests on who've talked about being former members of the cult and that we shouldn't be so mean. I don't know, tell you, like what being nice doesn't work. Right. We tried that. Let's see what happens. But no, it is every single day of in our face, right? This is what we wanted. You know what? Actually, I want to read to you a post that I saw of somebody that I'm apparently friends with on social media. This is not from the Facebook page of the Patti Vasquez show. This is from my own personal page. I took a screenshot of this because I was absolutely flabbergasted, and I realized that there's 20% of this country that absolutely wants to burn it all down. And so this is from, let's call him Chris because that's his name. He says, a 77-year-old neighbor of mine just told me she and her 81-year-old husband may have to start working again for the first time in a decade to make up for the massive losses their retirement accounts have seen over the last month due to the tariff war. So it starts out where I think, oh my God, it's horrible. Because I've met people along the way. When I was in Wisconsin, I talked to a volunteer who was telling me she has to go back to work, and in part because her husband's healthcare costs have gone up. So she's working at a okay, I'm not even going to tell you what store because that's not neither here nor there. At any rate, okay, so they've watched more than $800,000 of their retirement evaporate. Right, which is a lot. I don't know. Maybe they had a lot of money, but I don't know how it was invested. If you have a 401k, like my previous 401k from another employer, I can't put money into it. I can't, maybe I could move it someplace else, but I can't add to it. There's nothing I can do to change that fund. It is what it is. And I put money into that, and I had an agreement with my employer. Okay, at any rate. So this guy says, Chris says, it'll get far worse as the Dow is predicted to drop at least another 15,000 points by the end of April, which I don't know if that's true. I don't know where this guy's coming from, but President Trump will not relent, nor should he. Americans need to finally accept the fact that our old way of living is gone forever and that sacrifices need to be made. And we've seen this. He's parroting what they're saying on Fox News. It's the same as during the pandemic when they said, I'm sure our grandparents are more than happy to sacrifice themselves to open up the economy again. These are things that Fox News have said, right? And so I guess if you've been buying into that narrative, the way they sell you, because you can see it online every single time something changes. They're like, oh yeah, that's right. They absolutely fall in line with the absurdity, with the stupidity. Okay. Anyway, let me continue reading. This is crazy, you guys. I read this and because I've seen it on my page, on my show page, and it's one thing to have thousands of people chiming in from around the world. It's another to have a neighbor that is like a friend of a friend, and so he became acquaintances on Facebook. So he goes on. So he says, we have to, our old way of living is gone forever, and that sacrifices need to be made to ensure President Trump's legacy of greatness. If cratering the stock market from 40,000 to zero and causing the biggest global depression in world history is what it takes to make that happen and to prove that he was absolutely right with these tariffs, then I'm for it. Trump's legacy of greatness is the only thing that matters. MAGA forever. And I don't know, like, part of me is like, as I read it, I'm like, come on, that has to be satire, right? Only I see that sentiment over and over again on my, like, he might think he's doing satire, only that's, or maybe he's not. It's freaking hard to tell. Like, people are off their rockers. Okay. I should probably take a breath. I'm going to hydrate. I have my, Everyone hydrate. I used to tell you to take a deep breath, but now I'm just, we'll just do a gong for, every time I do this, it's like a drinking game, but you should hydrate, and whatever that is. I'm not going to judge, but it's your moment of hydration. Okay, let me take Jim's call, because Jim's on hold, and we've got some guests coming in the studio, so I want to make sure I get to our calls. Hey, Jim, how are you doing, my friend?
Hi, Patty. Satchel Paige's best quip to me was, don't look back. Something might be gaining on you.
Oh, boy.
So I was thinking of the Biden crime family. That went on for, about 6 months, the Biden crime family. Hunter Biden stole millions of dollars. They have an LCP and all this other baloney. Now you've got a person who is talking about business, international business, and he was convicted in an hour and a half of 34 felony counts in his business practices. He's running a university that was an absolute fraud, that he defrauded I don't know how many people, and Bondi got him out of that mess. Pam Bondi, our great, whoever she's doing now. And this guy, you're going to tell me this guy he should be in charge of international finance? Come on. Patty, please believe me. Somebody on that golf course or somebody in the White House, you've got a lot of day traders hanging around Mar-a-Lago. I can guarantee you that, trying to make a fast buck. Anybody hanging around this guy is looking for a fast buck. You know that. So all I can say is he's pulled the teeth. The FBI, Cash Patel is in charge of the FBI. So what do you think Cash Patel is going to do? A lunatic that had a movie that claimed that Democrats were manufacturing votes around the country. He's the head of the FBI, by the way. So nobody's going to look into this. Nobody's going to look into it. But the problem is that that Trump would do anything for money, and his family would do anything for money. Or Kushner, did they ever explain why the Saudis gave him $2 billion? What if Hunter Biden got $2 billion, or Biden's son-in-law got $2 billion? You think that they wouldn't be investigated? That wouldn't be investigated?
I know.
I mean, come on. So my point is they're so interested in money. He's surrounded by billionaires. I mean, he loves this Musk because Musk has got, tons of money. And so if this nut thinks that we're going to sacrifice America for Trump, he's got another thing coming, online, offline, on a clothesline, and wherever the heck this guy's at, whatever line he's on. Because I'm not about to sacrifice the United States for Donald Trump, a thief, a rapist, and especially how many people did he molest, Patty? I mean, this guy's a professional molester. How about with the guy that hung himself? It brings the young girl in the office, and Trump is feeling her up while they're talking. Where they're going to have lunch?
I don't know.
But the reason they could get away with that is because she was a young girl, and she's probably thinking, "What the hell am I doing here? I can't protest with these two psychos. I might never get out of the hotel or his office where he filmed the Apprentice." He's feeling her up, right? And he's going right along with the game. Yeah. I mean, but this is the person we're dealing with. We're going to sacrifice for this guy?
Yeah. Hey, these folks, they're honestly, some of the things that I'm seeing on my Facebook page, they're unhinged.
Yeah, but thank God that I couldn't. This is bad enough just to get snippets of the news here and there. Yeah. If I had to sit and listen to every Tom, Dick, and Harry, and Mary, and Larry, I'd be berserk. I'd be absolutely berserk.
Well, I'm glad you listen and call in, and so we can help each other get through all this, manage each other's emotions. Jim, thank you so much.
Have a good
Cheers.
Show,
Take care. Thanks. Let's take a break here. Thank you so much to our listeners here on WCPT 820 and our friends in Seattle on KKNW 1150. We have one of our sponsors coming in from the way back in. We're going to talk to our friends from Are You Really Winning campaign as we continue to talk about gambling problem gambling awareness. So thank you so much for your support. And, of course, Minocqua Brewing Company. Go to MinocquaBrewingCompany.com. Subscribe to their newsletter. Please, if you do order some Lady Justice, that supports the work that I do there and my piece that I wrote on Monday. And, of course, our friends at Source Solar. Go to source.solar and make an appointment. Maybe it's time for you to get solar panels on your home or business and join over 100,000 happy customers in the Chicagoland area. More in a moment.
Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive.
Donald Trump told the Senate to make recess appointments. No reason to have any confirmation. And, oh, by the way, the people I am going to nominate are the single most reprehensible, unqualified folks that you have ever seen be a part of any administration at any point in time in the known universe.
Joan Esposito, weekday afternoons 2 to 5 on WCPT 820.
Because facts matter. You're listening to WCPT 820.
If you're listening to this station right now, you've definitely heard my voice before. Hi, I'm Hawk.
And I'm Pete. And we're with Source Solar, your local source for solar. Source Solar is Chicagoland's premier solar installer, providing solutions for over 1,000 homeowners and business owners across Illinois and Iowa.
With over a decade of industry experience and deep roots here in Chicago, we have the expertise to help your transition to clean, renewable, resilient energy.
We can guarantee that we save you money day one without any out-of-pocket cost to you. This means you have an instant ROI, instant payback, and can save money to add to your bottom line day one.
At Source Solar, we source everything as local as possible, meaning we always carry the Made in USA sticker.
Find us online at www.source.solar. Stop in our office at 5710 Northwest Highway or give us a call at 773-985-3992.
And don't forget to ask for Hawk
or
and Pete.
Patti Vasquez is taking your calls now.
All right, let's hit it.
At 773-763-9278.
I got a lot to say.
It's Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
Thank you for joining us as we drive it home. I mentioned earlier that short sellers made over $159 billion in paper profits over 6 trading days during this back and forth with tariffs and the trade war. And it sent the U.S. market down more than 10%, which is the biggest market fall since 2022. Oh, my God. It's just so at any rate, I know that most of us are wondering how many people who, were in on these meetings or who was, notified that these changes and these tariffs, they were looming, they were going to happen, they were going to be revoked. So at any rate, oh my God. So the short side, according to this article, was an extraordinarily profitable trade up and down the market during the correction. 81% of every short trade was profitable, and 97% of every dollar shorted was a profitable trade. So tell me that, come on now. At any rate, let's see what Roosevelt, what's on your mind, my friend?
Patty, thank you for taking my call, my friend. You opened up the conversation about the short sellers and all that stuff that you started with.
Yep.
Did you see the knuckleheads that work for Fox News, in particular?
No, I have not had the displeasure of watching that channel.
You got to look it up. First of all, the alcoholic Judge Perot said, and I quote, "I don't care about my 401k."
Yeah, they're saying these things. Of course you don't care. People who make millions of dollars don't have to care about a 401k. I'm sorry.
Exactly. Yeah. My point.
Sorry.
I think she makes what, 10 million? I looked it up once, but it's quite a while back. I think it's 10 million. And the other knucklehead, she upped Judge Janine Perot. She brought back World War II. Oh, we used to get together in the country. You got to look it up, the ridiculous statement that she made. Another one, Harris Faulkner. You know who she is. Yeah. And that's just it.
Ugh, her eyelashes creep me out. She's beautiful. Those it looks like they're too heavy.
Are you asking me?
They get caught. No, I'm looking at Lady B. Her top lashes, I think, sometimes get stuck on her bottom lashes because they're so gummy from the fake eyelash glue. Sometimes it looks like she can't open her eyes again.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no.
You know who I don't think is beautiful that they make such a fuss about? And that is our first lady. To me, she looks like an alien. That's me. That's just me.
There's a joke. Okay? There's a joke that Rita Rudner had in the 80s where she said, "I don't plan to grow old gracefully. I plan to have faceless until my ears meet, and I have to answer the phone on the top of my head." That's what Melania looks like to me. She's just pulled so far back.
Hey, but listen. I got a question to ask you. It's in regards to how you opened up the show.
Market manipulation. Is that what you mean?
These guys are able to hide. What I'm talking about is Trump benefiting from this because he is the one that cooked up this
scheme. Grift.
This plan. And notice how I was just telling Lady B, people have a short memory. That is so right. Because remember how it all started? It started with Mexico and Canada. And the reason was because of fentanyl. Until Mexico complies, I'm going to slap a tariff on them and on Canada. Remember how it all started? Now it was worldwide, including the poor penguins, But
But I don't understand. If you could explain to me why he's hitting China so hard when China, everything that he sells is made in China, first of all. Second of all, don't we all China? Aren't we in debt with China? And all the stuff that is made in China is sold at Walmart, which a lot of people shop. So this is going to hit us.
Well, and so you bring up a good point. So we have to wonder,
that's garbage,
right? But then we have to wonder, then what's the angle?
What do you think of that?
Right, what's the angle then? Because to your point, and look, it's so funny. I was listening to Tom Hartman today, and there was a guy that was going on, and Tom was like, "Well, mate, okay," and he's like, "What do you think about that?" Kind of cracks me up because I got a lot of thoughts, Roosevelt. You can't tie me down to one thing I think about. At any rate, a lot of experts are talking about how it's the bond market we need to look at because we are vulnerable because China owns our debt. So it makes me wonder, is there another scheme behind this? Is he colluding with Russia and China on something? Because Musk, remember that day when the Pentagon was going to have Musk in a meeting, but then they said, oh, there's a conflict of interest because Musk has business relations with China. There's something happening, and I don't know if we'll ever know the answer, but it certainly is not because there's a trade deficit with these other countries. I don't know what the 125% tariff, what the logic is there. I don't know. There's something else that we're missing, and I don't know if they're doing it with reason or if it really is just whatever Peter Navarro says. Let's do that stupid thing. At any rate, those are my thoughts. Thank you. I think okay. I don't know if Roosevelt muted me, but I can't hear Roosevelt anymore. At any rate, I know we're getting a few texts in as well. The other thing we have not had a chance to dwell on too much because, and that's the thing, right? Is it also a distraction from a press conference where I don't know her name. I don't retain a lot of these girls' names when they're all shiny and if you look at the before and after photos of so many people that work for Donald Trump, the press secretary, there's so much happening there. It's just so plastic. At any rate, yesterday she came out and talked about how he had raised the tariff on China to 104%. And also, oh, by the way, we're looking into whether or not we can legally deport U.S. citizens to El Salvador, which should make everyone's head explode. But I'm sure people, because now it's going to be, well, if you're a violent criminal, only that was what they were saying about immigrants, right? About the undocumented population. They're they're all violent criminals. Only an investigation into that found that the reason I sound like this is because I am feeling a little manic. But 75% of the people who've been detained, and many of which have been sent to El Salvador, did not have criminal records. So what makes you, and many people who were here legally, we have this father from Maryland who, oopsie, they made a mistake. Now you think it's going to be okay to say, well, if you commit a violent crime, then you can also be deported, even if you're a legal U.S. citizen, without any just the ones that maybe who are the children of immigrants, or maybe that's me, by the way. Everything's great. Everything's going just according to, I guess, the plan. At any rate, okay, we should take a break because we have guests coming in studio. Let's switch gears. Let's all take a deep breath and maybe a little bit of this, little meditation. We'll be right back in just a moment with the theater company Elsinore and find out about their latest production after this on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal and KKNW Alternative Talk. Yeah, I'm feeling a little bit all over the place.
The Hal Sparks radio program.
Walmart's financial chief, John David Rainey, said tariffs are going to be inflationary. There is no disputing that. Walmart has said these costs are going to be passed on to the consumer. 60 to 70% of the things that are in your local Walmart come from China. It might as well be an Alibaba outlet store. And they're about to find out the hard way.
Hal Sparks, Saturdays from 11 to 1 on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Hey, Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's Progressive Talk from TuneIn.
DuPage County continues to get out the vote and elect progressive candidates, so it's no wonder that there are now several local retailers carrying progressive beer from Minocqua Brewing Company. Be sure to grab yours from Famous Liquors in Lombard, Arminetti Beverage Mart in Roselle, Doty Liquors in Elmhurst, and Bobby's Liquor Warehouse in Carroll Stream, conveniently located next door to the DuPage County Democratic Office. A full list of Illinois locations that offer the Resistance lineup of beers posted at the top of the Patti Vasquez Show Facebook page, as well as at MinocquaBrewingCompany.com.
You want facts that matter, want to hear some truth? Get your lazy ass down to the voting booth and vote, goddammit! Vote, goddammit! Want some justice on the Supreme Court?
I do love this song. I play it every once in a while because Steve Goody does such great work. Go to stevegoody.com. He also does our theme song. That's Goodie. We had a great virtual comedy show last night. If you didn't get a chance to catch it, it's available on YouTube and Facebook as well, or go to the website virtualcomedyshow.com, because I think with everything that's going on, we should stay engaged and entertained as well. Joining me in studio is the ensemble, the theater company Elsinore joins me in studio. We have Lori. Hi, Lori. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
you're like, oh God, I love your dress.
Thank you.
you look fantastic. So joining Lori, we have who do we have in studio with us? Let me, because I know I have all the names in front of me, but I can't. I apologize. I should have talked to you before we went on the air.
That's okay. I'm Jamie Ewing.
Hi, Jamie Ewing. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having us back.
Welcome back.
Appreciate it.
And Thomas Newman.
Lori is playing Emily Penrose in this production of The Lifespan of a Fact. I have to imagine it's minuscule. It's very short. The lifespan of a fact is what it feels like these days. It seems very...
Yes, but no.
Yeah, I know.
It's up for debate.
It is.
Yes.
It feels entirely up for debate. So Jamie, tell me a little bit about... So you're playing John DeGata. Mm-hmm. Am I saying John's name?
You are.
Am I saying the fictional character's name correctly?
Well, the irony is he's actually a real person.
Oh,
so John DeGata and Laurie's character is the only person who's
I don't
like,
exist.
Yeah,
you're not fake, my friend.
But Thomas plays Jim Fingal, and they had kind of they published first John wrote this article that involved essay.
Oh.
Wow! I
never call it an article.
Yeah, that was a foul on myself.
Never.
Yeah,
boy!
Wow!
See how long that fact lasted.
Right.
Yeah.
Just out the window. But he wrote an essay about a young man who unfortunately threw himself off a casino in Las Vegas, but in the process, he seemed to have taken several liberties with, how the actual facts of the story lined up. And Jim Fingal was a fact checker hired by, I believe it was originally commissioned for Harper's. It was never published at the time. And then years later, it was published in The Believer. And they made an exercise out of it to kind of, I mean, obviously some of it is exaggerated in the way they interact, but it's essentially like a publication of the article as he wrote it, along with Jim's footnotes in the fact-checking process and the back and forth between them.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, so it really kind of, I guess the best way to encapsulate it is it kind of, it hits on what is truth and what is accurate.
Right.
Because some of it is not really that he actually made stuff up. It's just the way that he embroidered the story and lined up the different elements of the story to convey the story that he wanted to. Well, and that's the thing is when you're writing an essay and not an article. Oh, yes, because there are obviously there's different ways of sharing a story, right? Mm-hmm. If you're a journalist writing an article, it's a who, what, where, and when, right? Yeah. And how. I guess sometimes how. Do you guys know? I had to write for my high school paper, so sometimes how. But when you're writing an essay, it's intended, and a column, right, are both intended more for entertainment. Mm-hmm. So is that kind of the element of making it? What is it? Don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. Well, I mean that would be a good way of that would actually kind of be John's mantra in a way. I mean he actually says in the play that he's interested in not accuracy but truth. Oh. And those are different things. Right. So it gets what? I mean they can be the same. Right. Oh. Because what's your truth? What somebody else's is that what we're dealing with? A little bit?
I would kind of say so because I think that where a lot of the conflict comes from is that Jim is the like obnoxious, nerdy Harvard fact checker who's like, no, this is not factual, but necessarily it would work for the truth of the story.
Right.
But he's like, no, this is wrong. It happened in August, not in June, even though it would work better because you're trying to conflue the...
Conflue is not a word.
In the world of the play, it is.
And Kim, do we get to find out?
It's not, but yeah.
Yes, but...
I love this story already.
I take offense to it, both as a character and as a person.
What did you want to say, Lori?
But I was just saying, like, maybe these facts aren't necessarily relevant, right? In terms of it being a fact, like,
right?
Just,
yeah. Well, because it's so strange because I find myself in the middle of writing an essay, and so essays about my life collection, and I stop myself from going to ask everybody that is involved in these essays because I mean, like, I'll never get it done.
Yeah.
I'll never. If I ask everybody, is this how you remember it? Like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Right. So at some point, you just have to write.
Right.
So what is it like doing a production, telling the story about someone who told a story? Who wants to, I mean, because that's a lot. I mean, that's, it's a little bit meta, but it's also, I mean, it's very rich in all the possibilities.
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, I think to take more of an, to not wax as philosophical on it, but to sort of back into how we got to it.
Yes, please.
It's interesting because when we originally got the rights to it, I mean, it's almost 2 years ago.
Yeah,
now,
it was a while ago.
Yeah, and at the time we were thinking, okay, in 2 years' time we want to be producing shows in Chicago proper. We want to do the first show that has all of us, in the show. And we just landed across this story that all the characters seem to really fit us well, emblematically, as to a certain degree. There's at least an aspect of those characters within our persons,
right?
So it kind of it was just all these different things lining up correctly. And then at the time, I think it had been produced in Chicago once, and
never.
It
was
at all.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought there had been one production years ago.
Nope.
Okay, well, then that was a self fact that I made up.
See,
that was disproven.
You just remember it differently.
I remembered it differently, Patty. I did.
I feel you.
I did. I remembered it.
Well, don't you think that's kind of like some of the quicksand of being in show? I guess not show, but being a performer, right? Is it we have so many elements of our life? You're like, well, did that happen?
Right.
Like it starts to get a little bit slippery.
Well, and I personally read a lot of memoirs, and I'm very conscious of the. There's usually always some kind of proviso at the beginning, if not made by the author themselves, but on the copyright page where they'll say, some certain characters are amalgamations of multiple people, or names have been changed to,
protect the innocent.
Protect the innocent.
Exactly. That's how my whole book is going to be.
Just dropping the T on everybody.
Oh yeah. Actually, I'm not. There's not going to be protecting anybody. But go ahead. Okay, maybe.
There we go. Bring it all to light.
Yeah,
the light is a.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, what I mean, like, as part of this of the storytelling, what compels us to put these things down and want to share it with other people?
Yeah.
Right. What is our goal in that? Is just to be remembered, or to I think a lot of us want to be heard. Right. Yeah. Here's what really happened.
Yeah.
But then you find out that wasn't really what happened.
Right.
Was it?
That's their experience of what happened, though. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's how it felt.
Yeah.
And it's funny because inadvertently, as things have turned out on a national scale, as I'm sure you're probably familiar with, it ends up being those kind of questions are really, really relevant to daily life, and somehow we landed on this play that there's nothing inherently political about it at all. There's not really any statements in it that are politically based, but that's the reality or the unreality we live in.
Now, you guys have already had your previews. Yes. How do you feel? How did for folks who don't know, Lori, do you want to tell folks what the preview process is like and why it's a little bit different than opening?
Well, We actually did open too.
Right.
We had the preview was before press, before anyone sees it. We're still in tech. Tech is still working things out. We're still not quite ready for opening, pretty much. Right. Yeah.
And then when you open, so how did it feel on these performances that you've done?
Great.
Yeah.
I mean, they went really well.
Because I feel like people are eager for connecting to a story.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Are you feeling that? Because I know you guys started during the pandemic over Zoom with this theater company in its inception.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, like with each production, do you just feel that kind of growing momentum of like, okay? I mean, do you think back on those days when you were sitting in front of your screen?
Yes, but I think also more so because of like the Facebook and all the social media. Like, remember this? It's like we'll get those. Hey, remember where you were 2 years ago? You opened Virginia, like whatever show.
Right.
We'll get those reminders of you posted this a year ago, and it's like, oh, we really did. Like, it's more and more prevalent of being able to look back, and then, especially with this show, without spoiling anything, there's a lot of technologically advanced stuff we are doing that we've never done before. So there is like there are these multiple added layers that kind of were like, wow, we're here, we're doing this, okay, we're doing this is that now, like
right
we from where we've gone to where we are now, there's been a massive leap just from the first show we did this season to this one, but also
just the entire arc.
The entire arc is kind of not to say the arc is finished, but we're almost kind of starting this new Chicago arc of our narrative.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, and that brings me to the fact that this production is at the Athenaeum Theater, and it's running through
May 4th.
May 4th.
Thursday,
with no
Fridays.
shows on Easter.
Right.
Easter weekend.
Easter
okay,
weekend.
I have a really stupid story. I don't think I should tell it on the air. But I was in a production, and I wasn't really in the production. I was the opening act for Puppetry of the Penis. And at the Lakeshore Theater, which is now the Laugh Factory. I don't know why this popped into my head, but whenever I think of a production on Easter. So we didn't have many reservations. So one of the puppeteers, which is just funny to say, because it's one of the naked guys, took it upon himself to call the 38 people that had made reservations and cancel the entire show without telling the production company or the theater. It was amazing. It was the craziest thing. Can you imagine? Can you imagine like if one of the people in your theater company was like, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and take care of this and not have a show on Easter. So I'm very glad that I decided to not have a show on Easter.
Stranger things have happened.
I mean, it was a strange. I haven't thought of that story in a while. It's going in the book.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's one of my essays. Hey, I don't care if it actually happened. That's how I remember it.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
We're in studio with our friends from Elsinore. It's Elsinore, right? Just Elsinore. Yes, from Elsinore. A wonderful theater company. Created in the inception during the pandemic. Joining us in studio are Lori Rohr, Jamie Ewing, and Thomas Newman. And the production is running through May 4th with no performances. Easter, the whole weekend? Easter weekend? The whole weekend. No performances. If you want tickets for that, you're out of luck. Or I can make them. I'll just call you all individually and make reservations for you. Let's take a break here and continue our conversation when we come back. Where's the best place for folks to get tickets? Let me see. I'm trying to find... do you guys... Oh, see, when I hear silence, I get nervous because I'm like, oh, gosh, I need to know.
The Athenaeum website.
The Athenaeum website is the best place to go. So Athenaeum, let me find their website then. I've got it, athenaeumcenter.org. That's it. The Lifespan of a Fact. Performances are at 7:30. You can go to athenaeumcenter.org and get some more information and reserve your tickets. More after this on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal and KKNW 1150 in Seattle, Washington.
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
Thank you so much for joining us as we continue our conversation with our friends from Elsinore Theater Company. Started during the pandemic, now into their fourth season? Third
season. This is our sixth production.
Sixth production. Congratulations to all of you. And now introduce us to our new friend in studio. Joining us is Aaron.
Hi.
Hi, Aaron. Aaron Reese Bozeman. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Now, you're the director of this production.
Yes.
And how was it corralling these cats?
Well, they are cats that are already corralled.
Fair enough.
I'm kind of an outsider coming in.
Oh boy,
process.
How was that?
It's fun. It's unique. It's a challenge because they're already kind of a gelled machine here, and so like it's bringing in something new, something fresh to kind of like jump it up a little bit.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like in every process as a director, actors are gonna like disagree and agree on things or think about things differently, and the job is to come to compromises and to find a way to tell the story. So. Yeah, they've been very great about that. Yeah.
What were your thoughts on sort of going into this process of this story? We've been talking about this is basically the story. You're telling the story of a storyteller. Mm-hmm. Which if somebody messaged me and said apparently it sounds like a great film called. Hold on a second. The French Dispatch. Mm-hmm. So now you're all going to have to watch that before. But I mean, I think it's fascinating. So what was that like coming into this production?
I've never worked on something that's had like 3 playwrights. So you can kind of tell in certain moments, like, okay, this feels like a different energy here. This person's more of a bleeding heart, whereas this person's more factual. And it kind of felt like being a part of like that original process with Jim Finkel and John DeGata, where Jim Finkel's coming in to like correct something or change something. So that the play kind of has that energy as well. Because it's a story within a story, within another story, within another story, telling another story. So it's kind of a lot to take in at once. And it's a play that's, I think, it is action loaded, but it's also, text heavy, so you gotta kind of mine through everything, kind of like dig things out, to kind of figure out what the story is going to be, and eventually there's a heart that comes in through it that I think you can find at the top, but it finds its needle, it kind of finds its way down, and it kind of it has a poetic ending. I believe.
Oh, poetic ending. So not necessarily a resolution, right?
Not a resolution. There's some ambiguity there.
Oh, teaser for everybody. Teaser for everybody.
Some false ambiguity.
Oh, that's my whole life. That's going to be the next book I write. False ambiguity.
That's a great title for it.
Actually,
false ambiguity.
For me, it was more so like I know it's based on a true story, all those different things. But I always go into processes not caring about all of that. Mm-hmm. I don't care about what the production did before.
Right.
I look at the text and what is the text trying to tell me to do? And that's how I try to lead with the text. So, and you can use other stuff for, research and things like that to have background. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, we have 3 characters on stage that have to tell a story. And what is that story? So that's kind of how I went about it. That's how I go about everything. Even if a lot of things I haven't seen before. I had never heard about the play until they approached me with it. I said, what is this? Okay.
Sure. That's what you want to do. Fine.
Sometimes I get plays where I've heard of it or I've never seen it, but I may have read it in high school or something. I'm like, yeah, let's take a crack at it and see what it is. What new voice? Because I think if you bog down to what was done before, you don't have anything new to say. So,
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Although I will say when I auditioned for Arsenic and Old Lace in high school, I just went ahead and did the woman's role exactly as it was in the Cary Grant movie. I'm not going to lie. And I got it. But that's neither here nor there. Because nobody in my class saw Arsenic and Old Lace from the 1940s. At any rate, so you brought up something really interesting, which was this is also a real story. So now another element to it is, right, oh my God, and my head's going to explode with all the different elements of a story within a story, of telling a story, but also a true story. Like, who do you don't owe that, the writer or the people in this, anything either, which is what keeps me from writing fictional, like, history stuff. So how much of the story did you dive into when it comes to like not worrying about what happened before or how this has been sort of interpreted?
I think it's interesting simply because the biggest difference is that factually it took about 10 years. Fictionally, in the play, it takes about 5 days. Mm-hmm. So it was one of those things where it was kind of like, I have the book that it's based off of, and I'm really interested to read it just to see all the discourse that happened. But also in my mind, I was kind of like, don't touch that, because it is lengthening the process by reading the book. Whereas the play, it's literally I think Laurie's character says the essay was only 13 pages. Your spreadsheet of facts is over 135 pages.
15 pages.
And it's kind of like, okay, I can see how factually that would work better over this, but then I'm like, you've got a crazy fact checker who's just...
Now, if only this person had AI, they could just put all that into.
Well, he can create automated searches and custom batch apps that get a lot more information than people normally do.
I mean,
I also think it depends on the story. Like if it's based on a true story, it depends on what that story is. Where like, I got to dig in deep.
Right.
This research. When other stories, it's like no one knows who John. When people know who John Tagada is, but not everybody knows who John Tagada is or John Fingal. So it's like okay, like I've had friends who've been in biopics and they look nothing like the person that they're playing, but that person's not famous enough for people like this person doesn't look like this person.
Don't get me started on Ray Liotta playing Shoeless Joe Jackson in Field of Dreams. Okay, not even he didn't even bat left hand. Okay, anyway, you went through all the motions of that where you're like, oh my god, she just made that. Yeah, that's where I'm going to go with that. But to that, then, because then you can't worry about anyone in the audience going, hey, wait a minute, right? I mean, like people will get over it in getting so immersed in the storytelling. Don't you think, Lori? Like that's what's important,
right? Exactly.
Right. So you're the one fictional character in this. Yeah. So that's kind of freeing.
But and also like to say too, it's like it's based on a true story, but like it didn't happen in this way at all, and. I guess my character is probably a conglomeration of other editors and things, and did not have as much say or did not have as much, the stakes weren't as high for this person or the real person,
Right, which is so with your character. I mean, this sort of helps bring the condense it into the 5 days. I'm imagining,
right? Yes. Yeah, and then she's kind of like the middle ground, right? That you need to have in here to make it.
Were you going to say the fulcrum?
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say that too, but I didn't want to ask. You can do that. You've worked with her. I hate putting words in people's mouths. But I was like, was she going to say fulcrum? I needed to know. Yeah, but that makes sense.
That putting words in your mouth, that's funny.
Is that also an element of this?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Look, you guys, they're telling us so many inside jokes. You almost have to go see this just for the inside jokes.
Kind of, pretty much.
Again, you don't even know about the chicken.
What about the chicken?
Well, you have to come
what about the chicken?
Yeah. Is there a real chicken?
I don't know. Is there?
I don't know.
Was there a chicken? Is there a chicken? Is she from Mississippi or Las Vegas or somewhere else? I don't know.
Please let her be from Mississippi. I don't know why. I just need that all of a sudden. We're talking to
the woman is from Mississippi.
The woman is from Mississippi.
The woman who beat the chicken in a 35-minute tic-tac-toe game is from Mississippi, but when she was from Mississippi, you have to come see the show to find out.
I love all of this so much. By the way, you meant beat her in the game of tic-tac-toe, not beat the chicken.
Right.
At any rate.
Yes.
Right? The way you said
she beat the chicken, beat a tic-tac-toe game.
Yeah.
I know you said the rest of it, but I was
stop by your head, Thomas.
I really love having you guys in the studio. It's too much fun. We're talking to Elsinore, the production company, the theater company that's doing a production of The Lifespan of a Fact at Athenaeum Theater. You can go to athenaeumcenter.org for ticket information, and the show is running through May 4th, with the exception of Easter weekend.
That's great.
I now feel like I'm going to call people and just tell them they should go. So Jim, with this production of it feels like this is almost a more intensely intimate production. I mean, I know you've done the one with at the airport, right? With Shooting Star. Does it get more intimate for you guys as you do more productions, or sort of like getting to know each other's rhythm?
Yeah. Well, I think that we try to find some element of like an element of every show that we do has a degree of intimacy or like a close nature with the audience.
Right.
This is kind of interesting because we've never really done a show heretofore that has been in a proper proscenium seating theater. We've always been in, we've tried to make things into black boxes based on where we were. So we've always been really close to the audience. So ironically, this is probably the farthest we've been from the audience.
Oh gosh!
But I think that the fact that the main set is John's house, and you're opening into that house, I feel like, and you tell me if I'm talking out of turn here, but because you've been at the very top of the theater, it still feels to me like, you're right there in the thick of it. You're in the soup.
It feels like 3 people packed in a sardine can, and like 3 different temperaments and tolerances.
Okay.
I think we designed it in a way where, like, if you sit in the house from any vantage point, it's a different vantage point, and it's an interesting thing. Like, you might see something new, you might see the raise of an eyebrow,
Right.
Whereas we fall back, you see the full picture. But I don't know, we just designed it in a fun, intimate, cinematic way. It is I think it's very naturalistic in how it's going down. It just depends on where you sit in the house. But it's a cool seat from every. We were in tech. I was sitting on the right side of the audience, front row. So like it's a completely different play here than it is all the way in the back. So it's interesting to watch. Yeah.
This sounds like an incredible play. I want to thank everyone for coming in studio. We've had not Jim Fingal, yes?
Well, I play Jim Fingal.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's not your name. Thomas Newman, Jamie Ewing, Lori Rohr, and our director, Aaron Reese Bozeman from the production, The Lifespan of a Fact, playing at the Athenaeum Theater. Oh, it's Athenaeum Center, actually, is what they've changed it to. Or
Center
maybe it
for
always
Thought
was.
and Culture, Studio A.
There you go. Excellent. Oh, yeah, for Thought. I just saw that, too. Go to athenaeumcenter.org for tickets. The production runs through May 4th, with the exception of Easter weekend. All the shows are at 7:30.
7:30 for the evening shows, 3 p.m. for the matinees on Sunday.
All right, they just need to change that on their website. No, just kidding. It's all the way over to the right, so you can see it's all the dates right there. Well, thank you all so much for coming in studio. We look forward to having you back, and I look forward to seeing this production.
Okay, great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, now you're closer to me. I feel bad. Now I got no excuses. More after this on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal and KKNW 1150 Seattle, Washington.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Driving it home with Patti Vasquez, Patti Vasquez. From global conflicts to greenhouse gases, the folks refusing to wear masks says, and politicians getting caught grabbing asses says, she's driving it home with Patti Vasquez.
Thank you so much for joining us as we continue to drive it home. It's been kind of a wild day, so I hope that you're all hydrating. We've been doing this throughout the show so people can be reminded to hydrate and relax a little bit, take a breath, because there's just too much news. It's too much madness. I think Schumer was saying that this is governing through chaos. So take a breath, check in with yourself, check in with your friends and family, and just, try to find things that take your mind off of things, and we'll get back to doing the work every single day. I want to thank our sponsors today. First, I want to thank our friends listening on KTNF AM 950 Minneapolis, St. Paul, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and our friends listening on 1150 KKNW, the alternative talk of Seattle, Washington. Of course, joining us here on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal in Chicago. You can listen to us on TuneIn for free or watch the show on Facebook or YouTube, where our sponsors have made it possible for us to have these conversations, including our friends at Source Solar. Go to source.solar and make an appointment. Maybe it's time for you to put solar panels on your house or business and join over 100,000 happy customers in the Chicagoland area. I also want you to visit MinocquaBrewingCompany.com and sign up for their newsletter if you check out my latest piece, and perhaps maybe put it in order for Lady Justice and support the work that I do there. I would really appreciate it. And joining us in studio are our sponsors here on WCPT on Driving It Home, our friends from the Way Back In. We've been talking about their campaign, Are You Really Winning? And we've been amplifying the message of paying attention to yourself or people in your life that you love who are struggling with a gambling problem. Joining us in studio, we have our friend Anita, by the way, thank you so much for joining us once again. Even though it's really nasty outside, I know you live close, so I don't have to feel too bad. Yeah. But I'm hoping that our friend Mimi Sang didn't have to come too far. Hi, Mimi. How are you doing today?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well. I know that it is really was it nasty? Was traffic starting to build?
It was starting to build.
Yeah, because I don't know what it is about bad weather, but all of a sudden everyone in Chicago forgets how to drive. Don't they?
Yeah,
pretty much.
Now, and you would think that we actually actually have like good weather all year long. We should be used to this.
Yeah, you would think. Now, Anita Pandur is the director of The Way Back In, and we've been talking not just this year but last year as well. This program is really growing, and we're getting more attention. What have you noticed in this second year of joining forces with us? I know you've done this for a while, but how's the momentum feeling as far as getting the attention to this issue?
You know, one of the things that I have noticed over the time that we have spent together, over the time that we have been doing this public awareness campaign, and over the 20 years that we've been doing this gambling use disorder treatment at The Way Back In, is people are starting to recognize and be a lot more receptive. I know we just came out of Problem Gambling Awareness Month, and now we're into April, but the theme was seeking understanding, and I feel like we're seeing more of that, and we're seeing that recognition, not just the brand name recognition, but recognition for the problem and for solutions that are available and the choices that people have when they're making informed decision about their gambling choices. So it is a positive, right? Like there's still a lot of gambling going on, right? And
a lot of work to do. It doesn't diminish any of that. But I think that and we use the word normalize a lot. But I think just having these conversations, I know some people are like, oh my God, again. Well, you know what? If it helps somebody, we help somebody.
Yes,
that's the bottom line.
If we can help one person and one family, that is so important.
Absolutely. And Mimi, so tell us a little bit about, first of all, where'd you grow up, my friend?
Oh, I grew up in Chicago, actually. I grew up in Bridgeport.
Okay.
And now I work and live in Chinatown.
Where'd you go to high school?
I went to Kelly High School.
Oh, you went to Kelly. All right.
Bretton Park. Sorry, so many bees.
What did you start out to study? You mentioned going to high school, and then where'd you go after that? Did you go to college? Or?
Yes, I went to University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign.
ILL.
I.
Excellent. Thank you. What dorms did you live in first?
I lived at ISR, so Illinois State Street.
Okay, yeah, the tall ones.
Yeah,
I was in Allen Hall for 2 years.
Yeah. They remodeled ISR. I was like, wow, it's so beautiful. It was at like my last semester of grad school, and I was like, wow. So I went there for my undergrad and also master's.
Oh, wow. Oh, they remodeled Allen Hall. I think they go through different phases. It's funny, and I'm sure it's totally different now.
Oh, yeah. Green Street, completely different.
Oh, my God.
There's a Facebook video.
It's so weird.
Completely different. It goes from the 90s all the way till like, I think 2018, 2019.
Yeah, the way it's changed.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to Murphy's, which was exactly the same as it was when I went to school there. So I was like, okay, I'm centered, I'm grounded, I'm locked into my past and my present. So what were you studying at U of I?
For my bachelor's, I studied interdisciplinary health sciences in the College of Applied Health Sciences, where I concentrated more in health behavior change. And then I found out that they had a joint program where I can get my master's at the same time. So I got my master's in public health with the concentration of health behavior promotion.
How do I convince my son to do that 5-year program where he is? Because isn't it a good idea to fold that in and get it done?
Yes, it is. It's so nice. Even though at UIUC, the School of Public Health isn't, well, it's not a school. It's a program. Mm-hmm. It's not like completely on its own. It's still a great program. It's very small. You get to know your classmates, your cohorts. You also get to meet other graduate students from different programs in applied health sciences. So I would say if he wants to graduate early, you can absolutely get that degree real soon. Maybe in 4 years if he does iHealth, or that's the short name of interdisciplinary health science.
And what led you to this particular sort of work? As you're the program manager for substance abuse prevention, right?
Yes.
And gambling. Tell us the title.
Yeah, so it's a really long title. So I am the program manager for the substance use, gambling, and bullying prevention program.
Don't get me started.
It's a lot, very difficult topics. All three of them are.
You see my cheeks all of a sudden flushed? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
I just got really hot. Go ahead.
It's all good. It's a little warm. But I got started in the substance use field because when I was a grad student, one of the professors or the instructors, they actually reached out to me to see if I would like to be a TA for the drug use and abuse course. I was like, oh, okay, let me try to get into this. I thought about going to pharmacy school. That route didn't work out. So, and so I learned a lot about substances, and then I was like, okay, what's next? I found a job at Maha, and this is where I actually learned way, way more about substance use, harm reduction, being kind to others, and meeting people where they're at. So this is where I'm at, learned about substance use, and then I got into gambling.
Help assistant to me, gambling assistance.
Yes.
When you say you got into gambling, it sounds like I started gambling.
Oh, true. Gambling prevention.
There you go.
Gambling prevention. It was something very new. I myself have family history I have a lot of family members who were gambling, and then some of them were in really bad debt to the point where they started taking money from their from their life insurance. Yes. Oh. It was so sad. My mom watched her own sister just take all that money away. And then she tried to buy another one. And then, of course, I had another aunt who had that same experience, but she didn't take money from her life insurance. She stopped gambling one day. I just saw her come home every day after work. But in the past, when I was 10, they would just disappear. Both of my aunts gone. And then, of course, my uncles and my grandpa, my grandpa used to work at a mahjong parlor, so it's another type of gambling. And, of course, now two of my uncles, it feels like they own a mahjong parlor, but most likely they just work at a mahjong parlor. So I have a lot of memories of going to these buildings and hearing the little acrylic tiles just smacking with each other, people betting monies and chips. So,
and I understand that mahjong is very exhilarating. And it is one of the fastest growing among young males.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know there was a gambling element. I just thought it was senior centers,
so white and African American males.
Really?
That's a population that's. So you have older Chinese ladies and then young black and white males.
Yeah, bros. You got bros with with the aunties. Yeah.
Yes. I know it has been growing because on my Instagram feed, there are mahjong clubs every Sunday now.
I'm telling you, my mom picked up mahjong at the senior center. She played, and there's groups around this area.
Yeah. It is so mahjong actually started as more of a memory game.
Right.
But in order to make it more exhilarating, exciting, right? We kind of put down that money a little bit, whoever wins, they'll buy tea or they'll buy dinner or of course, I'll put down this many chips, right? Even if it's not with money, it's just little, thin little chips that they have. Something that's very innocent, seen as more of a cultural game to play during Lunar New Year. It can be very deadly of just kind of hooking people on of how it starts. And of course, kids kind of watch, growing up, my family had a mahjong table just ready to go on New Year's. We're like, okay, who's going to win and who's going to buy us breakfast or dinner tomorrow? And I was just like, what is going on?
Wow. And we were talking about this last time about those childhood memories too. And sort of, my dad took me to the racetrack. I hung out at poker games and things like that. We had different childhoods.
It's okay. Very similar elements.
But it is similar elements. It's also that fun, you get to hang out with the adults too. You feel like you're doing something, right?
Yeah, you feel so grown up, right?
Yeah.
You feel so involved, and it's so nice to be invited. And I think as you're doing some of that prevention, that's that really big aspect, right? A lot of these things start, I love the history you were saying, they start so positive, right?
Yep.
We started this as a social activity and a memory activity, which is what we need, and then somehow it becomes this whole different thing. And how do we kind of celebrate the history of it and yet warn people of some of the dangers, right? Because it starts so innocent, all right, loser buys tea, and then you're like, oh, I'm $100,000 in debt.
I'm taking money out of my life insurance, my retirement accounts, all those things. Let's talk more about this when we come back. We'll talk about that element to it. So when it goes from being a social activity to having a negative impact on your life. We're talking to Anita Pandur, who's the director of The Way Back In. And we've been talking for the last March was Problem Gambling Awareness Month, and we continue the conversation to make sure that we are mindful of what people are going through. And we're also joined by Mimi Tsang, who is I'm going to get it right, the program manager covering substance abuse, gambling, and bullying at Midwest Asian Health Association, MAHA. And we'll continue our conversation when we come back on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal and KKNW 1150 Seattle. And KT, did I say WCPT yet? Is this too many? We thank you for listening, everybody. More after this.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
Welcome back to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
Thank you so much for joining us as we continue to drive it home. Joining me in studio is Anita Pandur, the executive director of The Way Back In, and we've had these conversations for the last several weeks. We've been talking about problem gambling awareness and their campaign, Are You Really Winning? Also joining us in studio is Mimi Tsang, the substance abuse, gambling, bullying prevention program manager at Midwest Asian Health Association. You can go to maha-us.org. That's MAHA-us.org for more information. And I want to make sure we talk about some of the things that we've kind of covered. But we mentioned, you and I both were talking about our families and how, when we were kids, it was kind of exciting to be around the adults. My father came from an Irish background, where like horse racing was big and poker playing and things like that. And your family, mahjong was kind of the gateway.
Yeah, and scratch-offs and lottery.
And scratch-offs. That's what we want to talk about. Absolutely. What's funny is the scratch-off thing. Like, I all of that stuff. I just never, people will buy, I've seen people although when I say I'm at the liquor store, that's probably not great for this conversation either. But people get just entire
research.
Yeah, it's research. Yes, but just an arm's length of scratch off cards. Tell us a little bit about how people get sucked into that sort of it's just $1, it's just $5, right? It's at a machine at the grocery store.
Yeah, it's honestly growing up. And even seeing people in the morning, people are waiting at these little grocery stores just wanting to purchase one. And there's actually, I think there's one store in Chinatown that's just lottery tickets and scratch-offs.
Oh, my God.
It's just focused on that and a little bit of, liquor on it. But other than that, the store's very empty. There's nothing else.
Wow.
And I think the appeal is, that scratch-offs have, is that it's cheap. It's $1, $2. What am I going to lose?
Right.
Maybe $10 if I bought 10 scratch-off tickets for $1. And those little appeals, maybe you might win $5. Oh, this is great. $20. Oh, this is even better. But if you lose it,
right.
Well, I'm just losing it.
Right. I didn't put that much investment into it, is what they feel. And then the next thing you know, you're doing it's also, we've talked a lot about that adrenaline rush.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And you get it even, and it doesn't even really dissipate that much when you lose because you're like, oh, I can just get another one for $1.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's a small investment, but a big rush. And but you can lose that mindset of when, right? And we see this with any form of addiction as we see tolerance. So you need more and more to feel that same reward. And a lot of times because it is so cheap, you don't feel like there's any value. So I have $5 in my pocket and I could make $500, but I don't think I can buy anything else or invest or really save this $5 and see anything for it. So it's just easy come, easy go. And then we feel like, oh, and there's something, this has been studied and they have done a lot of research actually on it. There's a lot to that psychology of the scratching it off, right? And one at a time. And then anticipation and that build up. So it does take a minute to calm down. So even when you lose, it takes a minute to kind of
still exciting.
It's still exciting. You're still excited, right? And you're like, oh, I lost, but you're still excited. So you still feel good, so it feels weird, right? And
isn't there, I don't know if there's still an app. I feel like there was, because I've thought about this before, where if what you were going to spend money on, if you just, like you were saying, you can't invest $1 or $5, but I wish there was an app where I was going to bet, but I'm going to put the $1 into this investment. You know what I'm saying? I wish there was a micro way of investing something that you might have just tossed away and built that sort of addiction.
Yeah, you're coming up with a pretty good idea.
I'm just saying, hey, were you going to gamble? Maybe put $1 into this account you have.
I know the funny thing is that I've never been to a casino, like in my life.
Yeah, me neither.
Until I started a job trying to understand what's happening, and I found out that for people who do go to the casino and they have like after they cash out or something, they have like a little bits, like maybe $1 or a penny or 50 cents. They can actually donate that leftover money into this charity box thing. I wish I knew the official term, but I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. But if you're just donating a cent, I guess that's great. Or maybe, hopefully, some people might be like donating more. That goes to a good cause. But of course, you're still spending your money.
And the establishment gets a tax write-off for the money that you donated that goes in their name. I'm just saying. Just want folks to think about that as well. That's why I do it at the Walgreens. At any rate.
If only there was an app that we can just like be like, okay, I want to donate, or I want to keep $1 to myself. Let me keep it in a bank account.
I feel that should have already been done, right? Where if you, instead of rounding up or whatever, like the 30 cents off of a dinner tab goes. Anyway, that's for somebody else to figure out. I just come up with ideas that apparently aren't worthwhile. At any rate, what other elements are like the scratch offs? What are some of the other things that we don't necessarily take into account of how we sort of devolve into like being addicted to gambling?
I think it's more like in terms of the scratch off. I was also thinking of like the game. It's practically a game, right? Like you're scratching that feeling of scratching something off.
That's right.
For me as a kid, my dad also did a lot of scratch offs. I would. Like, after he was done, I would scratch off everything. This was so fun for me. And then growing up, I was like, oh, this is kind of normalized. Like, maybe I should do it. Not a great idea. Never did it. But it's just that feeling where maybe someone who's younger, they didn't really know. They just, like, grew up and just, like, this is very normal. Let me start. So that kind of appeal, that fun aspect of a scratch off, it hooks people on, too. Those little elements of it. The excitement of possibly winning, including lottery tickets. Like you pick a number, like, okay, I'll pick this number, that number, crossing my fingers I win something. So that's also one.
And we make it so personal with lotto tickets, right? We always pick
someone's birthdays.
Right. You pick birthdays, you pick anniversaries, you pick special, maybe like somebody, a loved one passed away, but they're very personal, right? We feel like we have so much influence over the lottery, and it's like, 1 in a billion that and it's always this like, well, somebody's gonna have to win. Like, well, yeah, but that's why it's like $500,000 because a lot of people put into this pool. Right. So it's again, like maybe if I kept this $5 and I kept another $5 by the end of the week, right? And then at the end of the year, I would have a substantial chunk of money. But we feel like it's like, well, but I might win. And these are special numbers because I'm going to win.
Right. It's going to be my turn. Yeah. And we just came out of, I don't even know if March, who won? Are the basketball games over? I have no idea.
They are over. I believe it was Florida.
Okay, that sounds right. So that was another thing, too, is that sort of, then you have a social aspect to it where you're all, now you're passing out cards and you're picking a square and things like that. And your coworker, no offense, coworkers, I'm all in with my squares. I don't think I bought any. But at any rate, that's another element, too. It's socializing.
Right. It is very socialized. And we see so much of that at work. So if you are a person who's choosing to abstain and either you are in recovery or you're just choosing not to gamble, sometimes that can be difficult in certain work environments because it is so driven. A lot of times it can also be very frustrating to you because everybody else is participating in something and they're paying a lot less time to work than they're paying attention to these games and the spreads. And so a lot of times there's a lot of loss of productivity at work, which can, wear down the whole entire system.
Oh, I have another job where they made it an entire event. Like in the cafeteria.
Wow. Okay.
We'll talk about that later. In like 3 minutes. So tell me about this conference that's coming up as well on April 24th.
Yeah, so on April 24th, we have the second annual Asian American Conference on Problem Gambling at the Bridgeport Arts Center. And it's going to be super fun. I can't remember the address, but it does run from 7:30 to 2:40 p.m. We're going to have some really exciting speakers with different backgrounds and have different information to talk about the challenges and how problem gambling or gambling impacts like the Asian communities or even just anyone, honestly, just because gambling doesn't really, like, it doesn't pick and choose, like, oh, I'll pick this person,
Right.
I'll pick that person. No, it's...
We don't know what that element is that might lead you to a problem situation.
Yes.
Yeah. I appreciate the work that you guys do so much in these conversations that we have.
To register for the conference, go to
Maha?
the Illinois Maha as well. You could go to areyoureallyWinning.com where
there
you
you
have
go.
that information. And then it's sponsored through the Illinois Council on Problem Gambling. So all the registration is available on their website. It is free?
Yes,
Okay.
it is free. It's completely free. You get lunch.
Okay,
you get
otherwise I would
entertainment.
get phone calls from Dave.
It is completely free. It is completely free. We're going to have some really good food, really good entertainment, and of course you get to meet other people who are either social workers or maybe community members. Anybody can come. Like, you don't have to be like, oh, I have to work in this field. Right.
Excellent.
Yes, and that's what we really want to highlight, is that it is open to the public, and we're hoping that people who are involved within the community leaders, teachers, people involved in any kind of religious institutions will want to participate in this just to gain more experience. You don't need to be a gambling counselor.
And again, that's on April 24th at the Bridgeport Arts Center.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you, ladies, so much.
Thank you.
Been great having you. I'll see you again in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Thank you. More after this when we come back. The phone lines are open 773-763-9278.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
If you're listening to this station right now, you've definitely heard my voice before. Hi, I'm Hawk.
And I'm Pete. And we're with Source Solar, your local source for solar. Source Solar is Chicagoland's premier solar installer, providing solutions for over 1,000 homeowners and business owners across Illinois and Iowa.
With over a decade of industry experience and deep roots here in Chicago, we have the expertise to help your transition to clean, renewable, resilient energy.
We can guarantee that we save you money day one without any out-of-pocket cost to you. This means you have an instant ROI, instant payback, and can save money to add to your bottom line day one.
At Source Solar, we source everything as local as possible, meaning we always carry the Made in USA sticker.
Find us online at www.source.solar. Stop in our office at 5710 North Northwest Highway or give us a call at 773-985-3992.
And don't forget to ask for Hawk
or
and Pete.
Patti Vasquez is taking your calls now.
All right, let's hit it.
At 773-763-9278.
I got a lot to say.
It's Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
We do have a lot to say. Our phone lines are open, 773-763-9278. You can also text us. I want to get to a couple of the texts, actually. There was somebody, I was talking at the beginning of the show. I'm hesitant to go full-throated, angry, and name-calling with maggots, but with MAGA. See? I'm not doing it well, Lady B, if I say that. At any rate, a listener says, hey, Patty, early in the show you talked about if people should treat MAGA voters nicely or not. I've thought about it a lot, and this is my take. President Orange Menace and there's a lot of K's in that word, Republican Party have successfully used fear and ignorance in order to win the White House. They were looking for a strong leader, quote unquote, and that is how they saw him. Many people have a hard time showing buyer's remorse, and I suspect these people are more apt to double down as a way of saving face. I believe that we don't have to be friends with them, but have to be willing to invite them to vote differently in the future to correct the course we are on. I know that sometimes it feels good to slam them, but I don't see that paying off in the future. I understand that. And I struggle with that because I also have so many folks on my social media page. Like, I don't know how I hesitate from calling somebody a name after they call me a libtard or a stupid slut or a liberal whore. Like, I don't actually, let me see if I can find some of the responses I've had in my DMs, and I have no problem sharing them publicly because mostly it's like I'm a little aggressively sometimes aggressively cheerful. Like, I'll say, like, hey, it sounds like you're having a bad day. You might want to talk to somebody about that. Go in grace. And so those are kind of some of the things that I respond with. I never respond, or I hesitate and refrain from, to the best of my ability, from name calling. I guess when I'm on the air, I especially today when I open the show, because there was okay, this is what it was. There was so much stupidity being spewed by people who all of a sudden are experts in history and tariffs and the way the market works, and like being overjoyed, I guess. Like here, there's this woman who keeps popping up. To you naysayers, he who laughs last laughs best. Breaking 5 and I'm reading it in their voice the way I imagine. 5.5 trillion in value added to the U.S. stock market today, the third biggest gain since World War II. Right, so they were doing this yesterday morning while the stock market was rallying, and we were up like 1,400 points. Then there was word that Trump was going to increase the tariffs to China to 104%. Now, I would imagine the fact that he's pausing all of the tariffs on everybody except China is going to play out differently in the days to come, because it's going to be 125% tariff to China, which is the biggest manufacturer of so many of the things that we rely on, or that is sold by so many of our big companies, including Walmart and Target and Amazon. Because here's the thing, we are massive consumers. And if there's one thing I would encourage folks to do, there's a lot of things I would encourage, including hydrating. Hi, everybody. Are you hydrating? It's my little club soda. I needed that. Here's your moment. Every time I should do this as and not drinking game like in the traditional sense of get hammered. I mean, just don't spill things on the board. That's one way to break things. Just a little bit of a gong. We should do a little of that. That's your cue to take a sip. Make sure you're taking a sip. I don't want to get my poor emotional support dumpster fire all soggy. That's a wonderful gift from a listener, a little crocheted dumpster fire. At any rate, I would be mindful of your level of consumption. I have not bought anything, and that's probably going to have to change because there are certain things on Amazon that I rely on, especially for Declan, but I have not really bought anything in about 6 weeks. And man, oh man, the way my credit card bills look has been just fantastic. I really appreciate that I've done that. I have not gone into certain businesses, including I've never in my life been a fan of Target. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's their lighting. They're much more fluorescent-y there. I don't know. There's just something about Walmarts I've never liked. I never saw one until I was in college. There were no Walmarts in my neck of the woods growing up in the 80s, 70s and 80s. And we had our Venture. We had our Woolworths. We had our Zare. We had our Zare, everybody. That's where we went. Target wasn't even a thing to me until the 90s. So yeah, it just wasn't on my radar. The first time I ever saw a Walmart, I was dating a boy in Jacksonville, Illinois. Let's call him Tom because that's his name. And what struck me about the Walmart, and Tom was and is an incredibly brilliant person. At any rate, and so what was weird to me was we were driving by the Walmart. He and his dad had picked me up from the Amtrak station. So I always remember this drive because I was really excited. I was visiting my boyfriend and meeting his parents and getting to stay in a town I'd never been in. And Jacksonville's a really cool city, a really cool town. It's got a lot of incredible history. And so we were driving down the road and Tom goes, "That's our old Walmart," right? That was the biggest Walmart in the country at one point. And we kept going. He goes, "That's the new Walmart." Like that was our moment. Like it's just struck me as I was like, what are we doing? And I had never been to a Walmart. So the fact that they were excited about this new Walmart coming in was I just didn't understand it. And I just have never, believe me, I go to Target. But there was something about it that just seemed like just cheap and bulk and I remember, I don't know if you guys remember this in the 90s, in the early 90s, there was this big deal about how they were giving employees like a big bonus. Do you guys remember this when they realized how much money they had? And I haven't seen anything like that since the 90s. I know Costco had very publicly put out a statement about how the CEO did not want to make, I think it was like 12 times more than the people who worked in their stores. And I have not seen anything like that from Walmart. If anything, we know we subsidize Walmart in many ways, including the fact that many of their employees have to get SNAP benefits in order to be able to afford food. And we also, by the way, I found this out in the last few months. When we talk about, and I went to do some research about this when Governor Huckabee Sanders bought that land in Arkansas, like 800 acres, and I'm still concerned about why they want to have these big detention centers. I know that BlackRock has made a pitch to the military about these detainment camps for deportation. They say they want to deport. I guess there's a story about how the federal government, this administration, wants to be able to deport 12 million people by 2026, which would be about, I think, 500,000 people a month. And you have to have the sort of resources, the manpower to do that. And since we're already talking about possibly deporting U.S. citizens, if it's legal, we're not sure. At any rate, I found out a few months ago that Walmart, Target, and some of these big stores, even though some of them had signed an agreement not to purchase produce that was brought to the stores by labor camps in prisons, they do. It's about $200 million between some of these bigger stores. At any rate, what I'm telling you is, morally, I have struggled with some of these companies because I get that it's cheaper for me. And I tried, I remember a few years ago, I tried to buy only American made. There's a tab on Amazon and there were certain companies that some of the things are, and we ship manufacturing to other places, folks, because we didn't want to pay a fair wage. Not by we, I mean, we didn't want to pay for products that were going to cost more in order for people that were making them to be able to survive and provide for their families. We didn't want to have safe workplaces like in the textile industry. If you've never seen the movie Norma Ray with Sally Field, I think that's a great place to sort of learn about the South. This is about the end of manufacturing textiles in the United States because we did get labor unions, and with Reagan destroying the unions and shipping, that was part of the shipping jobs other places in the world. Man, there's just so many levels of this stock market manipulation that I just can't even. It's so much. Jim, what's on your mind, my friend?
First of all, I can't even drive by a Walmart. I get the willies just driving by when I've never been in a Walmart, but their history to their employees is criminal. I mean, they used to write policies on people and not let them know, and when they die, they cash in on the policy. I mean, everything there is on consignment. If you send stuff to Walmart, if the idea is not brilliant, it's just a big old warehouse where they take in that whatever on consignment, whatever they can't sell, you've got to take back. You've got to get your truck and take it back out of there. That's what their success rate was. But anyway, I wasn't talking about Walmart. But the stock market, the Republicans have been married to the stock market forever. All the Republicans I know are all giddy when a Republican wins. They go, the stock market can go up the stock market. I mean, they're married to the stock market in that regard. In fact, they vote. I would say a certain percentage of their Republican vote is for the stock market. It's not for the particular person. They just feel they've been duped into believing that a Republican is going to boost the stock market because, they're going to cut the social service net and they're going to give tax cuts, whatever their criteria is, I don't know. But the first Trump run was, well, what do you see with my stock market? Every day there's Republicans I know. Oh, man, I made, X amount of dollars in the stock market. I said, I know, but I said, what about your mental deterioration from watching watching these emails every 10 minutes from a lunatic who knows nothing about the stock market? He never made a dime in the stock market. He made his money through, being a celebrity, claiming that he was a real estate genius when he wasn't a real estate genius. Barbara Walters picked him out of obscurity. She put him on TV in the 70s, right? And he thought he was so handsome looking at TV that he couldn't get over himself. So he even made up stories on how he would, he pretended he was somebody else. Anything to get publicity, to get back on TV. I mean, that was his whole spiel. He thought he was the most handsome man in America, apparently, and so TV made him a lot of dough. Then he became the apprentice. We know the story of that crazy show. But the Republicans have been married to the stock market ever since I was a kid, and that is part of their calculation when they go in to vote for a person. Yep. And this particular episode, nobody knows how it's going to end. There's an economist in the world, Patty, who has any idea how this is going to end. They do know that when you put poor countries, if you put tariffs on those countries, what happens is thousands of people lose their jobs because it's labor intensive, low wages. Vietnam, for instance, China, for instance, and those people are out of jobs.
Yep.
Anyway, yeah, I had to call back.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Thanks. Have a good night, Jim. Stay hydrated. Let's take a break here and continue our conversation. We come back on WCPT 820, Heartland Signal, KKNW 1150, Seattle, and KTNF AM 950, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Amy Goodman reports on the news stories rarely covered by the corporate media. Democracy Now!
The UN's Humanitarian Affairs Office warned Palestinian children are at high risk of injury or death from unexploded ordnance left after more than 13 months of Israeli attacks. 8-year-old Mohammed Karmash, this is his mother.
No one was there to tell him that these are explosives that the Israelis throw.
Democracy Now! Weekday evenings at 10 on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
Vasquez, we appreciate all our fans of Driving It Home, and your support of show sponsor Minocqua Brewing Company ensures that our important conversations continue right here on WCPT each weekday from 5 to 7 p.m. You can now find the Resistance IPA, Labor Lager, or the Resistance Pilsner beer at several Illinois locations, including Arminetti Wine and Spirits in Woodstock, Pineapple and Company in North Riverside, Lions Beverage Depot in Arlington Heights, and MP's Liquor, Wine, and Beer in North Aurora. For a full list of Chicagoland locations, please visit MinocquaBrewingCompany.com. As always, please vote and drink responsibly.
Patti Vasquez is taking your calls now.
All right, let's hit it.
At 773-763-9278.
I got a lot to say.
It's Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
Thank you for joining us as we drive it home. I was talking about, I believe it's all market manipulation. I actually started the show this way, Paul. Paul Farahvar joins us. He's a recovering attorney and a comedian who's performing tonight at Zanies in Rosemont. Hey, Paul. Yeah, market manipulation. That's all I'm saying. What's on your mind, Paul?
Yeah, it's funny that, James just said, everyone always used to say the market is the greatest, measure of how things are going. And then Republicans are traditionally free trade people. And then all of a sudden Daddy says that tariffs are good and the market is not a good measure. And they fall in line. It was all manipulation.
Yeah.
If the House turns in 2 years, they need to investigate how many people that are in Trump's circle dropped taxes the day before he made the announcement.
Yep.
And then bought up stocks in the last week.
Well, Steve, my husband sent me an article today, as a matter of fact, that short sellers in the 6 days of the erratic nature of the stock market, the volatility, they made $159 billion during these swings.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'll forward that to you if you want to use it. Yeah.
Look, I get messages from my friends on the right all the time about how all these congressmen have so much money, and Pelosi is worth so much money because she has insider information, blah, blah, blah. But they ignore the fact that Kelly Loeffler was a senator from Georgia, busted for the same thing, lost her election, and now she's in the Trump administration. That's how they reward or punish those that are criminals.
Yeah.
It's insanity that people are just letting this go.
Well, go ahead.
No, that's it. It's just insanity. Go ahead.
No, you said and. I want you to finish your and. Sorry, go.
Well, I just said it's and. They're saying the market's it's already back. No, it's back to where it was before he did all this stuff.
It's actually, he cratered it 20%. It's only back 10%. So it's not even back to where it was yet. Yeah.
And then they're going to say, well, he's a genius because he brought it back. It's his pattern of creating a problem and then solving it, and then everyone pats him on the back. Everyone sees this, and they just let it keep happening.
Well, that's not just here, right? But when he was on trial, and I know I think you covered the decision, right? The 34 counts, or at least some of the trial when you filled in for me. And
I did. Yeah.
Yeah. What makes me rage sometimes is people were like, oh, people don't usually get tried for this. This isn't the kind of thing that usually goes to court, which is part of the problem. To your point about they should be investigated, people should be held accountable. White collar crime goes wildly under prosecuted, isn't it, Paul?
Absolutely, yeah, and it causes so many more problems to the economy. And the biggest one, is these stock manipulation and market manipulation. And here I saw something, and I haven't had a chance to verify this, but Marjorie Taylor Greene invested in Family Dollar right before the tariffs, and then all of a sudden that stock went up or whatever. Maybe it's vice versa. But clearly the people on the inside, maybe they're on a Signal group text. They know exactly when the tariffs are coming.
Right.
And they're making money off of it. And their argument, when and if this is busted, is be like, well, Pelosi and Schumer do it all the time. It's like, no, they don't. They do it towards lobbying or whatever, the way that has been decided to manipulate or try to control your senator. And by the way, that's thanks to the Supreme Court that said corporations are people. So they're just changing the rules, and then they just go along with whatever happens. And it's insanity that we've come to this point. And then, I post about this on my Facebook, and then people will say the most asinine things, and I'm like, oh, you just Googled tariffs like the last 2 days, and you were in my class in high school, but you didn't graduate. So what are you talking about? You're not an expert.
Right. Well, and here's the thing. Every time someone posts, it's amazing to me the acceleration on my Patti Vasquez show page in comparison. I don't post that as much on my personal page. It's just been a lot going on. But the people, you can tell that it's the very last thing they heard on Fox News, right? That we were all paid protesters. Yeah. That there weren't tariffs. There weren't income taxes before World War I. And it's always the very last thing, or that the guy in Maryland, who now we know the White House even admitted he was accidentally sent to El Salvador, but they heard Baghdad Barbie during the press conference say that he was in a gang, that he was involved in child trafficking, and then they say that because she said it, because Fox News. I'm so angry, Paul.
Right?
Yeah, it's the last thing they hear.
I am too, and nobody uses their own research. It's like, okay, you can just Google and do your own research to look. If you're on the right, you're going to get research that's going to be benefiting your thought process. But at least there's some information there before you start spewing stuff, like you said. And it's just gotten so out of control that people start believing it, and then they don't even know what the latest is.
Yeah.
Sometimes people are like, no, he's not going to, this tariff is going to be great. Long run, it's going to be great. Then all of a sudden they pause it, and they're like, well, no, the idea was never to do it long run.
Yeah.
It's like, they don't even have the PR down.
No, it's exactly right. And I was telling the audience earlier that one guy was saying he doesn't care if his elderly retired neighbors lose everything, lose hundreds of thousands of dollars in their 401ks. He's like, because we need this. People are going to have to learn that this suffering is a sacrifice for basically elevating America to its great power and enshrining Trump's legacy of greatness. Like literally is what they put on their Facebook page.
Yeah, we're living in the craziest of times, and I don't know how we awaken from it.
So Paul Farahvar, are you performing tonight at the Zanies in Rosemont? Yes.
Yeah, and I'm late. I'm late as always, as you know.
What time does the show start?
To be there 7 o'clock.
Oh, shoot. Go, Paul. Run, Paul. All right, Paul's going to be there.
No, you're fine. What were you going to...
Go to Paul F. Comedy. Go to paulfcomedy.com. We're going to have a new podcast eminently called Musically Challenged, where Paul just laughs hysterically at all the musicians that I have no idea who they are, or how to say their names, or who sings what, or what the name of the song is. And I'm not getting any better.
Axl Rose.
And the Guns, right? Axl Rose and the Guns.
That's what she said. And the Roses.
And the Roses.
Yeah, you were close. Yeah.
They were roses, they were guns. Paul, I'll talk to you soon. And I owe you a Venmo.
Okay, thanks,
I owe you some money, too, by the way. I have not been paid, but I will pay you.
Don't worry. No. Wait till you're paid.
All right, we'll figure it out. Thanks, Paul.
That sounds so shady, by the way. That's okay.
That's all, behind the curtain. I'll talk to you later. Hey, by the way, people can hear us in Seattle. If you know anyone in Seattle or Minneapolis, St. Paul, just so you know. Tell them to tune in.
Okay.
All right, cool. Say hi to everybody for me. Take care. Bye. Comedian Paul Farahvar. We'll get him in studio when his schedule allows. He travels a lot, so hopefully he can join us or fill in for me soon. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I want to let you know tomorrow on Joan's show, she's going to have Julia McShane of Mother Joan. So check out that show. Joan's show is from 2 to 5 Central right here in the afternoons. Chicago's Progressive Talk for 20 years. That's live, local, and progressive. And Richard Chu is going to have Natalie Ziemba from Woodstock City Council. So tune in from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Thank you so much, Lady B. Have a great evening, everybody. Love you all.